I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine yesterday, a pretty prominent entrepreneur, most likely a name that you know, definitely a brand that you know. And we were talking about exit strategy. And he said to me, he goes, I really don't have an exit strategy. I'm going to run my company forever. I'm going to run my company until the day I die. I never want to sell it. And I said, well, then what happens? And it's a big company. I mean, again, a brand that you know. He goes, well, we'll figure that out down the road. Maybe I'll sell it to my employees. Maybe, my kids may want to take over. We haven't really thought about that yet. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, I get it. I understand. You in your mind, you're never going to exit. But it's that kind of thinking that really can lead you to bad outcomes. And not just something bad happens to you and you leave it in the hands of your heirs or your family or your employees. But what if someone knocks on the door one day and it's kind of been a bad week, and maybe it's been a bad month, and maybe you realize there's more to life than this thing that's all-consuming that is your business, and you think, you know what, maybe I'm going to change my thinking. Maybe I do want to exit. And if you're not prepared and there's no plan or there's no strategy, then you really, really disadvantage yourself. We believe fundamentally at Align 5, every entrepreneur, and that means every entrepreneur, needs to have an exit strategy. That strategy may be, I'm going to retire and close the doors. Or it may be, I'm going to create a succession plan for my kids. A thoughtful, governance-based, family, multi-generational plan. Or maybe I'm going to do an ESOP and sell it to my employees. Or maybe I'm going to try and sell it to a buyer. I worked with an entrepreneur about a month and a half ago, and someone knocked on his door. And they came in and they said all the right things. They talked about the upside and the future. They even talked about how they would value his company. And he didn't have a plan. But hey, these buyers seemed like they were legit. They had a great story to tell. He gets all the way down the road, 11th hour. And that's when I got called in. Somebody said to me, hey, can you talk to this person? I think they may be headed down a bad path. And I unfortunately got involved at the 11th hour. And I looked at their letter of intent, the agreement that the buyer used to help value the business and lay out the terms of the deal. I looked at the purchase agreement. I looked at how they were going to value stock in the new company for him going forward. And I can tell you that his lack of preparation left him completely disadvantaged. His lack of knowledge about the process left him completely disadvantaged. Now, he was in a situation where he had to make a decision. Does he do a suboptimal deal and leave millions of dollars on the table? Does he walk away when in his mind he's already thought about what he's going to do next and he's already committed to the transaction? Or do we try and negotiate at the 11th hour, which I can tell you never, ever goes well? And he just didn't have some basic stuff in order. Financials weren't really solid, and they weren't in a format that the buyer appreciated, so the buyer used those against them. The employment agreements weren't in great shape. The buyer used that against them. The systems and process of how they ran the business was totally dependent on the entrepreneur, and the buyer used that against him. And at the very last second, in that 11th hour, the buyer cut their offer in half. And they said, well, you don't have this, and you don't have this, and you don't have this. Now, do you think the buyer knew that from day one? Absolutely. Do you think the buyer used a really, really big number up front to get him excited, to get him committed to the deal and wait till the 11th hour to change the terms and the price? Absolutely. The buyer knew all along that they were in the driver's seat. They had all the advantage because he was unprepared and he hadn't done his homework and he didn't even understand the exit strategy process. Somebody may knock on your door one day, and it could be bad news, it could be a buyer, it could be you're exhausted and burned out and you're ready to move on. The day whatever it is knocks on the door, you want to know exactly how you're going to respond, exactly how you're going to react. Imagine saying to a prospective buyer, absolutely, we're ready to go. Here's all of our due diligence, here's our financials, here's everything you need to learn about our business and give us a fair valuation. Or that same buyer knocks on the door and you say, never thought about our exit strategy before. Sure, we're happy to talk. And next thing you know, 4 months down the road, you're where our client was a couple weeks ago. Totally unprepared, totally disadvantaged, and in the worst possible situation you could be in. So I implore you as an entrepreneur, it's not only a smart idea, it's absolutely your responsibility to be ready to go when whatever it is knocks on the door. And if you don't want to do it for yourself, at the very least, do it for your family or your employees or the people that care that you may not be around to help when that day comes. So if you want to learn more, we're Align 5. There's a link at the bottom of the video. Click that. We're happy to help you through the process. I want to make sure personally that you are thinking about your exit strategy literally every step of the way, not when it's too late.